Hey guys, this week on the podcast, I have Karyn Bryant. Karyn Bryant has been a major anchor for multiple networks. She's a BJ. I didn't know that about her, for MTV, worked for CNN, worked for a whole host of companies, and now is working for the UFC. So I am excited to have her on. We had a great conversation. So here we are, the great Karyn Bryant. Guys, another episode here of The Gospel of Fire. And man, maybe I'm just masochistic because I just keep interviewing all people that are better interviewers than me. And and do it for a living. So I am here with the UFCs and MMA Heat and man, a whole host of things. Karyn Bryant, how are you?
I'm great, Eliot. How's it going?
I'm well. This is like the first time I think we've actually really talked.
I know, I think so too. And it's funny because I looked something up. So my husband went to see you as well. You guys both went to the same school. Huh?
All right, nice. How old's your husband? When was he there?
I think he's a little before your time. So I think he graduated in like 94, 95, something like that. So.
All right, so a little bit, yeah. So I got there in 98, so a couple years.
Okay, but it's a pretty campus. I went up to see it one time. It's nice.
It's beautiful. Ask him if he remembers the Foundry.
Okay.
Because it was like the big. This is where like I made my mark. It was where I grew into who I am, I guess.
Okay.
Like it was the biggest bar in town, and we all worked there. Like one jiu-jitsu guy at the school got an opportunity to work there, and then we just hired each other. So
that's funny. Yeah. I'll ask him about it then. I will
ask him about it. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you doing this, especially because it was just a text intro from Megan, and you don't know me, and like sometimes these things can go bad, right? You have this ex-fighter who's trying to do this interview thing, and God, man, we can be awful at this.
No, it's cool. It's always good to, get to know more of you. And like you said, it's funny that we haven't ever spoken before. Obviously, we know all the same people, like Vlad Matyashenko, not to bring something up, but is a good friend of mine. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I love Vladdy. Just because we fought 10 years ago, whatever, who cares? You know, like I'm a Vladdy fan. Neems, I love Neems. Are you friend with Neems too?
Of course, of course.
Neems is such a good guy, right?
Yeah, totally. He's great. He's great. Neems is awesome. The whole gang is good. So
I rarely like managers in the game because I think they're shady.
Yeah.
You know, but the one we have an agency that a lot of my guys currently are working with that I really like, and I really like Neems. Like, he's with his people. Like they're like his people. They're not like money makers.
Exactly.
Him, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. And I know what you mean about managers or someone. I'm like, wow, really? That's your manager, huh? Wow. Okay. Interesting choice. Or like, do you know what your manager is doing on your behalf when you aren't around? Because he's not very good.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Are they calling my biggest? Okay. So here's my biggest pet peeve. One of my biggest pet peeves with managers when I was fighting and now as a coach is like, man, this is a team effort in MMA.
Yeah.
Like this is like just an individual, like, talk to the coaches, like care about what they like, talk, like communicate as a team, like an NFL team, like everybody talks, you know?
Right.
And, you know,
so
like they would just call the fighter and try to, and then they would try to get as much money as possible for them and the fighter, which could totally like fuck other things up.
Totally.
And so I never felt Neems did that.
Yeah.
Like he was always talking to people. We've never worked with him. Never. We have no fighters that ever worked with him.
Right.
And he's texting us to say hello. You know, how are you? Hey, congratulations on this. And there's no money in it for him. So like that's the clicker for me.
For sure. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. So I was looking at your Wikipedia earlier.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably wrong, but okay.
Mine too, but who cares, right? Where did you start in this MMA game? Like how did you get here?
Okay. That's actually pretty easy. You know, before MMA, I was covering boxing. So I first got into combat sports by covering boxing. I was working for Showtime Championship Boxing. So I started working with them at the beginning of 2006 as a reporter for them. You know, prior to that, I was doing an entertainment show at CNN and stuff. And my agent actually at the time also managed Steve Albert. and knew that they were looking for people over at Showtime. So I had some meetings, actually, I think it's 2 meetings or something, or a lunch and a meeting or something, and started working with them. So I was doing, you know, the locker room interviews in the ring and stuff. Like I was the last one to interview Diego Corrales in the ring, I believe. So I definitely saw some incredible fights. Like
before he died, you're saying?
Say again?
Before he died.
Yeah.
Say, oh, wow.
Yeah, no, yeah. Because we used to hang out with him sometimes and stuff. And I'm pretty sure it was the last fight that he had. And I worked that one. And, you know, it was a tragic story, obviously, very tragic story. But from there, yeah, from covering boxing, I started to get into MMA because CBS was doing the Saturday night fights. So a lot of us who were already working on the Showtime stuff, obviously with, you know, CBS, that kind of worked out well. So I was working with Morrow and stuff. And so like that Kimbo fight when he fought Petrozelli, if you look at the pictures, I'm sitting right there next to the octagon, like, oh my God, like freak, you know, not the octagon, sorry. Yeah, so I got into combat sports after you know, starting in boxing in 2006, I switched to MMA in 2007. So there was kind of an overlap of both sports for a while. But 2007 is essentially when we started MMA Heat and stuff. And I started working with the UFC and Fox in 2012.
Do you like it?
Do I like it?
Yeah, of course. Like, you know, just like stereotypically, there's not a lot of females doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And there's not a lot of African-American, or I know you're Jamaican females do. I think you're the only one.
There's
right?
only
like
me.
There's only you. So like, it's not like the stereotypical way, like, you know, if most females, right, especially African-American females, are going to go towards like the major sports, football, basketball,
right?
You know, because that's, yeah, it's just, you know,
well, but even still, Eliot, there's only allowed to be like 2 black sideline reporters at any time. I mean, you say that there's opportunity. There's not as much opportunity.
No, there's. Oh, I agree with you. Like,
I mean,
yeah.
Come on, like I mean, you know, you're asking a very loaded question.
For sure.
Of course, everything is harder for me. Like It is. Like I'm not gonna pretend it isn't. And people will be like, "Oh, you're just complaining." Well, I'm just telling you the truth. Like you might hear it as a complaint or whatever. Like I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah, but you made it.
But yeah, you know, it is unlikely.
Figured it out.
I'm still trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is everything I've done in my life, like I always was the odd one out. Like just everything from where I grew up and all kinds of stuff. Like I never looked like everybody else in town. I was always like the odd one, right? So there's a million times that I've gone for jobs and I would sit around and it was like 4 blondes and me. And that's 100% the truth. And it has 100% happened more than once. And I would get the job and I'm like, okay, well, clearly, you know, they were looking for something else.
Right.
And it just happened to come in this package. So for sometimes some people see me as like a risky choice or like, wow, we're going with the like, I'm like, how am I risky? Like I'm prepared. I know what I'm doing. Like, I don't see myself as a risk, you know what I mean? But sometimes I'm perceived as like a risky choice, which is weird.
I totally understand what you're saying. So I am, my dad's African-American. My mom's white, you know?
Yeah.
And my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. So where I grew up, there wasn't a soul like me other than my sister. Like that was it. And we grew up in a really small town in New Jersey. So I am feeling you, you know, I'm feeling you here. You grew up in Boston, correct? In the city or outside?
Outside of Boston. So like 40 minutes outside of Boston. And yeah, you know, you mentioned my mom is Jamaican, but my dad was half white and half black. And so we didn't really, we
call that Obama black these days.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like mocha. I'm a little chocolate.
Yeah, I'm Obama black. That's what I call it.
But if you're Obama black and you're in a 100% white town, you're an N-word.
You're black.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. And so, like on the one hand, it got me used to being the odd one out, but also on the other hand, you're just like, wow, I'm really tired of being the odd one.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah. So obviously that adversity had to become a strength for you.
Yeah.
Right. Like you had to make a choice at some point and be like, you know what? Fuck this. Watch how amazing I can be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I say that to people like you know, if everybody's staring at you, you have a choice of like either to hide from all of it or to be like, you're looking, so let me own the spotlight. Right. So
Right.
I guess I chose the latter, but you know, sometimes you want to hide. Like it's hard. It's tiring, like breaking the ice all the time and stuff like that. Right. And now I'm not going to sit up here and pretend that I'm like, you know, some superwoman that's, you know, whatever. But like, there are certain things that I've done that were the first time they were done by a woman or the first time they were done by a brown skinned woman. And some of that I don't even like recognize until somebody says it to me. Do you know what I mean? But,
Because you're
but
just
I
doing your
remember,
thing.
I mean, I had a conversation one time, a long time ago with John Jones, and we were backstage at something and it was long time ago, but we were talking and I even said to him, I was like, hey dude, like when you're up at the dais, the old days when everybody sat together, you know, and he was like, and I was like, when you look out at us in the meet, like, do you notice anything? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, do you notice that I'm the only one sitting there? And he was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Like, wow, that must be hard, huh? I'm like, yeah. But it isn't, right? Because I don't make every single thing in my life about that. Right.
Right.
So it's a fact. It's like it's a truth, but it's not like my reason for being.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing. Like I struggle with this one because on a bigger scale, I believe that, like, yes, this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Right. This is a huge problem that we have this inequality, let's say inequality, and not of outcomes, because I hate making outcomes equal. Inequality of opportunity.
Exactly.
Right. Inequality of opportunity, which is a major thing. But on the very other side of that, if you're to tell one individual, hey man, it's not fair for you, so man, this is why you're failing, then of course they're going to fail. So you can't tell them that. You can't be like, oh man, it's so unfair for you. Like your child, right? Do you know how unfair the world is for you because you're a woman, you have a daughter, right?
Yeah, but she's white. My husband's white.
I know, my kids are white too. Yeah, I know, my kids are white too. I know.
I'm like, dude, thank God you're not going to deal with BS just because the color of your skin. So that's one thing I can at least eliminate from the equation of like things I'm going to worry about.
My white kid, my oldest white son, says he identifies as black though. Like that's what he says. He's like, Dad, I'm identifying as black. They're growing froze out. They have this like big curly Jew fro. It's hilarious.
I love it.
They won't cut their hair. So anyway, it's not the way to tell an individual of how to do it. You know, so you have to work as a society over here to be like, okay, we need to fix this. You know, we need to work on this. But when you're talking to someone who you know it's unfair for, you got to be like, look, man, don't fucking matter.
Right. Right. Well, that's the thing, right? So you can't walk around with a victim mentality, right? I can't walk around, oh, woe is me, woe is me. But it is truth. It's 100% true. It's about the opportunity, right? So it's the not getting in the room because they were looking for blondes. It's the preconceived notion of a lot of things, right? I actually deal with, like, I literally have dealt with firsthand, and I finally saw it one time in person, so long story short, back at my old location, PA comes down. I'm in the makeup room with my makeup artist, I love, and she brings me a coffee. And you know, it's not what I had ordered, but I literally was like, oh my God, like if you could bring the iced one that I asked for, that'd be great. You know, no big deal. But like, I kind of was hoping for the other one. Like literally, that was the extent of it. A few minutes later, I get like another production person coming down. She's like, what is the problem? What's going on? Like, why are you freaking out? And I was like, what? Like, I'm looking at my makeup artist. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, so-and-so just said, like, you were totally upset about like the coffee order and you're totally freaking out. And I was like, okay, you know what? Now I'm freaking out. Like, now I'm freaking out that little, seriously, that little like, oh, no, thank you, was read as she's totally freaking out about her coffee order. And that comes
how long ago was this?
That comes from this. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to confront that because it's not even true. Like, and now the fact that you said that, like, now I actually am mad.
Right. Oh, you know,
like, I'm not crazy.
You know, my people's perceptions are crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? So when did you get this? What was it like when you got this major role for the UFC, like the desk? Because you're like the head desk person for all the shows now.
Yeah, you know,
like,
it was cool.
How did that come to?
Well, it's funny because I had actually auditioned with Kenny for UFC Tonight, like when they were first even doing the show, and we got along great. Like, I love Kenny. Come on, like who doesn't
Who
love
doesn't?
Kenny? So we got along great. We auditioned together, and I remember like afterwards, he's like, "Wow, like so you're doing the show, huh?" I was like, "No, I don't have the job. Like, I think this went really well and stuff." And I thought, I thought it could be something that worked out well. Long story short, obviously they hired Kenny, but they hired Todd Harris at the time. So he was there for a while and doing all the stuff. So I didn't get that job, but obviously I'd spoken to them and Fox and stuff. So literally they just called me. It was 2012 or something. And they called me to see if I could do the reporting for the Sweden show. The first time that we had gone to Sweden. So I was like, yeah, so I can do it. So I started out in the reporter role, but really, I mean, granted, I had done reporting for boxing and stuff like that too. But prior to that, most of my stuff was anchoring. So when people are like, "Oh my God, you went from your YouTube channel to anchoring the show," it's like, well, actually, I went from anchoring things to a YouTube channel back to anchoring. You know what I mean? So I had already done a lot of that stuff beforehand.
Okay.
But I still had to, obviously get in the system over there, prove myself, get the opportunity, do okay with it. And for a long time, Jay was still doing fight nights and stuff. So sometimes I was only doing the desk on the weigh-in day.
Who's Jay?
And Jay would do it on fight night.
Who is Jay?
Eventually he stopped doing Glazer. Yeah. And then,
okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So eventually he stopped doing them. And then, I kind of took over there over at Fox and stuff. But now that we switched networks, a lot of stuff got shuffled again, because now you're starting over and some people have, pre-existing relationships, or they just don't, people are different. So,
right.
Yeah.
How has the move to ESPN been for you? Do you enjoy working with ESPN again, or?
Honestly, I've never worked for them before. And honestly, it's weird because we like a lot of things didn't really change, because all my point people are essentially still just the same UFC people.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's been cool, but I don't really have that much interaction with them because we're on the road. It's like, it's different, right? We used to go to the studio for Fox. You felt like that vibe a little bit more. So it's a little bit weird. You feel a little disjointed, like you're obviously part of the team, but at the same time, like we haven't bonded, or I haven't had the opportunity to bond as much with the ESPN people, but I tell you what's amazing is the travel. We're seeing some amazing things around the world, and it's cool it's definitely cool to have the desk like in the arena. I definitely do prefer that. The guys come up, they're sweaty, they're bloody, you have that immediate reaction, and everything is just so, I don't know, I feel like it's so much better in the arena. So that has been amazing. It's just, like I said, some things didn't really change at all, same people, but then there are other things you're like, oh, they want to do it that way. Oh, okay. Well, we always did it this way, typical.
Like the in corner fight interview with me and Megan O'Leary. Oh
right.
My God, that was terrible.
I didn't, it's funny because I think I was watching that at a bar and I didn't like hear it.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing some things after. I was like, what was everybody freaking out about?
I mean, I didn't think it was terrible at the time, but then like when I was just like trying to talk to her and coach, right. But then I went back and watched it after I saw everyone freaking out about it. I was like, all right, maybe they shouldn't do that anymore. But she and I are friends. It's not like, right. And I knew it was coming and everything. It's not like they surprised me or right. I don't like her or,
right.
Or any of that. And I was like, well, all right. I thought Damon Martin's point about it was great. He's like, man, Megan O'Leary's one of the best in the game at this, quick interview thing. And Eliot is super smart and articulate. And if they can't get it right, then maybe they shouldn't do this.
And maybe they shouldn't do it. Right. And it's unfortunate that like Megan had to be the guinea pig in that situation, because a lot of time we get it way worse anyway, just because we're women. And then on top of that, like I'm sure, and this has happened to me too. And people will say stuff to you, dumb bitch. You're like, you realize like we have producers and stuff, right? Like you realize like we didn't just freestyle and be like, you know what I'm going to do?
I'm going to go do this right now. And they're going to air it live on TV, right? Like, yeah, I made this decision.
Totally made this up all by myself. But I will say the thing that makes me crazy the most about it, and I don't think, I mean, who knows why, maybe because of Joe or something, but like, I don't think Megan gets it as much as I do, the like, you don't know anything stuff. I get that a lot still. And I'm like, well, Well, I do actually know some stuff. And I've done this for a long time now, right? And like, I have a pretty good brain. Like, it literally would be impossible to work in it this long and not learn stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's kind of weird to me.
I mean, you'd have to be trying not to.
Trying not to learn stuff, right? And a lot of it stems from, and I actually won't forgive the media people at Fox who did this. A lot of it stems from the time when Michael and I are very good friends.
Okay.
Yeah, but he said something on the air, and he was in a Michael rant, and he was like, whatever, like, go back and read the teleprompter and yada, yada, yada. So like, ever since that day, that's a refrain that I hear a lot. Go read the prompter. Eliot, we don't have a prompter. Okay. Like, and he has been like, we don't have one. Right. And so like, ever since January, we don't have one. I write my own script. Okay. So like, when they're like, just read what's on the thing. Okay, I'll read it because I wrote it. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, and at Fox, we did have a prompter, and I worked with the script writer for that, but like, it's not like everything was on the prompter. And a lot of it is, if it is in the prompter, it says, talk to Eliot about his t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't mean everything is, so that's,
you're not like reading a word for word thing.
Right. That makes me crazy. It's like, how could I do this long and still not know what I'm doing? Like, that to me is weird.
Especially, it doesn't make sense.
But that's because you're a woman, right? And it's like, literally, I don't think people will give the same complaint. Like, Megan and I might hear, well, you guys were never fighters. Neither was John Anik. Neither was Brendan. Neither, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, but we get it worse. We definitely get it worse.
Oh, for sure you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I'll probably agree with you. She might get it a little less worse because she has Joe. Right. She's got a husband who's number one in the world.
Amazing.
Right. Like an amazing fighter. So she's
Right. And it's crappy that people can't just judge her on her own, right? That they have to like bring in the man, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just judge her on her own. Yeah.
For you guys, it's always, whose dick did you suck?
Right. Oh my God. Like,
right. Like,
totally.
Yeah. Who did you fuck to get here?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is always a thought. And I don't know, maybe you were just really smart.
Yeah. I mean, and it's unfortunate because it is always a thought. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've thought it in certain situations about other people I work with. I'm like, I think so. Like, I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, the thing is, it actually does happen sometimes, right? So we can't.
Well, that's the problem. It does exactly happen. Yes. Totally. It's not like it doesn't happen, right? You know?
All the time.
You know, I think that goes back to the problem of equal outcomes. Right? Like, that's trying to create an equal outcome rather than an equal opportunity. And I think this is such a big distinction when we're talking about these things.
Yeah.
Everything has to be about opportunity. Right. We can't equalize the outcomes. That's impossible. No. Like, because when we start to do that, now we're leaning way too far to a side where we've seen the terribleness of that. Right.
But you're just asking for a meritocracy. That's
I'm just asking for a chance.
That's all I'm asking for too. Like, literally, I'm always literally like, I just like, put me in a room with whatever other hosts and have a host off.
Right.
You know what I mean? We'll have an anchor off. I just want the opportunity to be in there with the rest of those blondes. That's all.
That's all. I'm writing a book right now. I wrote one book. I'm writing another one.
Yeah.
And I'm working through it with my people. And I'm like, look, you get me in the room with these publishers. And I know I don't have the biggest like following or like, you know, I'm not Malcolm Gladwell. I haven't done 10,000 bestsellers, New York Times.
Right.
Get me in the motherfucking room. You get me in the room. We're getting a goddamn major deal. That's all I'm saying. Right. Because a major deal is in both of our best interests, you know, get me in the goddamn room and we got it. Like,
it's funny. I agree with you. And it's funny because I have that attitude. And I remember one time, a long time ago, I was like in between agents and I was looking for an agent, and I went and I was talking to these people, and that's like the whole 100% of the attitude that I had. And then literally I hear later that they weren't interested in me because I was too confident.
What the fuck is that?
So I'm like, so you want to take on clients who think they won't get the job? Like, what kind of code is too, what?
To me, too confident. To me, confidence means it's not that I believe in necessarily my skills right now. Right. It's that, hey, I'll do whatever it takes. This is what confidence is for me. Like when you want something, it's like, okay, I don't know that at all. I suck at that. I'm awful at that. But I know I'm going to crush it because I know how hard I'll work to learn it.
Right. You believe in yourself. You know your abilities. You know what you can learn. You know what you don't know too. I mean, that's the other thing is like, I'm actually quite honest about what I know and what I don't know, but I'm very confident that I can learn pretty much anything. Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. And yeah, I was like, well, that's the whole thing. I was like, just get me in the room and I'll crush it for us. But I was too confident. And I was like, well, that's so weird to me, because I always feel like you want people like, we believe in this, like we're going to do it. And it's weird how that can be read as, oh no, I don't want that. And then the flip side of that is, and it's tough because, you know, like I said, I'm married to a white guy, and like, there's times when I'll come home from, you know, a job or this or that, or something that frustrated me. And he's like, why don't you just tell him? He's like, tell him this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious that you think I could say that. Do that and like still keep that job. Hilarious. That's hashtag white privilege for you, baby.
Right. My wife.
Yeah. And I was like, and it happens in our own house. And I'm like, I love that you want me to stand up for myself, and I so want to, but I gotta keep this job.
When my wife and I were first dating, we were driving back and we were getting pulled over.
Yeah.
By the police, you know, it was late at night, and I'm like, and I'm starting to be like, oh, fuck,
yeah.
You know, like, because you never know.
You never know.
You know, and like from my experience, I learned I grew up in New Jersey, which is like one of the worst states in the country. Exit, right? Yeah, exactly. And also one of the worst states for you know, driving while black.
Yeah.
And, you know, totally. So I'm like, I'm getting nervous, and she's never had this experience because she's a blonde haired white chick, right? Like she ran a car off the road once, like literally ran a car off the road and somehow talked her way out of it with police there, you know, like with the cops coming to the scene. Well, and I'm like, okay, so, yeah, that doesn't happen for me. Happen. That will never fucking happen for me.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like sweating a little bit. I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. She's like, why? And like, he goes back to his car. She's like, why are you calling him sir? I'm like, because I fucking have to. Shut the fuck up right now.
Right.
Like, don't you say a word, because this is going to go bad for me.
Totally.
So I can't. What do you want me to ram his car off the road like you did? You know?
Totally. You know, Wade and I drove across country a couple of times, and there were certain states where I'm like, yeah, you need to be driving, and I can't be driving, and this and that. And like, I years ago when I worked for MTV, I literally was driving through Texas with, this is such a random name drop story. They're not even that famous. Anyway, that band Jesus Jones, and we were doing like an MTV, you know, we were on like a spring break there. I don't even remember, but I'm driving through Texas with two guys in Jesus Jones and this Jewish girl with me, my wardrobe girl, and we're driving around. And I was like, by the way, guys, if we get pulled over, I totally work for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, I'm not the VJ. Like, I work for your asses. You know what I mean? I was like, don't, whatever. What are we doing?
How does your husband deal with all of this, right? Because you're obviously famous, you know,
well, that's the other thing. If I ever get pulled over, I got to beg that they're a fight fan, right?
Right. But in a male-dominated sport,
yeah.
Right. So you're hanging out with a lot of dudes, right?
Yeah.
And you have contact with a lot of dudes that are in shape, and you're on the road.
Yeah.
I asked Megan the same question, right? Because males and our egos can suck sometimes. And I'm talking about all of us, right?
Yeah.
Especially when our wives could be getting a lot of attention from other men.
Yeah. 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 That can be a little bit of an issue. And it's interesting because, how do I phrase this? Like it's a flattering thing in a way when your husband's like, what's going on? You know, you're on the road, and who are you hanging out with? And it's late, and why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you, you know, back in your room at this time? And da 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 da. Because, you know, he thinks that all the guys are, you know, like moths and everything. And I'm like, well, it's not happening. And if we are all hanging out, like we're literally hanging out and we're networking, and yeah, you might be down in the bar, but I'm talking to a manager, or I'm talking to fighters. I'm getting to know, you know, whatever. And so even though it might be social, you know, you're still on the job, and yeah, sometimes you're up late and da 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 da, and there aren't a lot of women around. And I'll even tell them that sometimes. I'm like, well, Megan wasn't there, or Heidi wasn't there, and da da da, and I didn't have anybody else to hang out with, so I got to hang out with a bunch of dudes. But the funny thing on that is, and I mean, Megan might even say the same thing, is like, well, do we factor in the equation? You know what I mean? Like, does my say in like wanting to, like, you know, like not engage with these people, have anything to say. Like, I don't know. It's just weird because I know, like, when you know in your own mind that you don't think that way,
right,
and you're not going to do anything. But then when somebody's like, well, all this stuff is happening, you're like, well, but it's not.
right.
It is tricky. I get it. It's tricky.
Well, I think we as males know how much we suck.
Well, that's the thing. I think you know yourselves, and you don't know us.
We know all of us way better than, like, we know that we suck.
Yeah.
Like we,
maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe that's what it is. Is that
we're pieces of shit when it comes to sex, right? Like,
you're right.
We are. Like, it's on our minds all the time, you know? And it's not like you're ugly, you know?
Oh, thanks.
Like, you know, so.
But
people, boys are boys, and we've been boys. And like, I'm not, okay, when I say we suck, I'm not faulting us for it, because the human species wouldn't be around if you weren't how you guys were, and we weren't like this, right? Like, so like, this is necessary. It's biological and evolutionary and all this stuff that we have to have. Right. But we know how much we suck.
Totally. But it's true. And I get it though, but I'm like, dude, like, I have a lot of I got a lot going on when I'm on the road, and like, I have a lot to worry about and maintain. And like, we have a job where like, we can't screw up. Do you know what I mean? And so there is a lot of pressure. And so with that pressure of, you know, yeah, it's fun, and yeah, it's the fights. And a lot of time, you know, look I've said it, and I know it when I'm standing there and it's fight night and we're up there and we're in our perch and we're looking over, and I'm there with Mike and Rashad and Kamar, we're all there, and you're watching fights and something amazing's happening, and you're literally like, there isn't somewhere else I'd rather be, right? Like, this is the greatest thing ever, and this is the most fun, and I feel like I'm totally dialed into what I'm supposed to be doing, and like, you know, you're like vibrating with the positive energy of the whole situation. It's amazing. But at the same time, like, it's a high pressure situation still. You can't screw up. There's a lot riding on you. There's all hundreds of people that worked hours more than you did before you got there, going to work hours more after you leave. You know, like, you're the tip of the iceberg. Like, you can't screw it up.
Yeah.
You know, and so it is that part too, like, after those shows, that is why everybody's in the bar at the hotel after, like, right? Because it's been a pressure cooker for a whole week. And then we can finally be like, all right, fine, we did it. Whew, okay, fine. Now let's ramp up for next week. But like, you do need that release after of the hanging out in the bar and the getting silly, because like, there is a lot of pressure on you.
People don't understand the intensity of a fight.
Yeah.
Like, I brought to the Anaheim show. Corey Sandhagen was on that show.
Corey's awesome.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like a year ago now, maybe, I got this idea I'm like trying to figure out how to like spread a message, you know, and like something that I read or listened to, they're like, look, just document everything. Just document everything and see what can stick, see what will go out, you know? So I started vlogging. Nice. You know, like, and so I brought a videographer out to tell like because in the UFC last tell from our point of view, like a fighter and team's point of view, not the UFC's point of view of what fight week was like. And when I brought him out, like, he had never been to a UFC fight, and I was like, right before we left, I was like, oh shit, man. Okay, so look, it's really, really boring. And then it gets really, really intense. Right. And you don't know when, like, these boring and intense moments, it's mostly boring. Okay. And then it's tense. So like, you can't get sensitive, right? Like, you can't be sensitive about anything that gets said to you. Like, if we need you to get the fuck out, I might say, hey, get the fuck out. And I might say it just like that. Right. So, and I had to explain this to him because people don't know, right? People really don't know the intensity of the moments of a fight week and fight night and right before and right after. Yes. So like, yeah, you need something to let that go.
It's incredibly intense. And I've even, you know, we do a podcast with Alan Joban. And I remember one time, one of his fights, like on the Thursday, you know, this is like our dear friend, obviously. And we go and we talk to him like on a Thursday night. He was working out, you know, in the little conference room or whatever and sweating. And I was like, who's that dude? Like, this is a totally different person. His whole demeanor was different. He was like edgy and like not as nice and this and that. And you're like, I can't take that personally because I know what's happening, but like, wow, like what a different, like that is a totally different dude right now.
I don't judge anything that a fighter says. Like
during fight week
or like, especially like right after the fight, like in the interview with Joe or John, I'm like, okay, great. I mean, like if they say something amazing, amazing. And if they say something completely off the wall, then yeah, they just got into a fucking fight.
Totally.
Right. And they like, even if they won, they might have a concussion. They might still have a concussion. Like one punch can do it.
Right.
So don't put too much stock in what they say.
Totally.
Because it could go bad. It could not. It's such an intense and insane moment.
Well, and with that in mind too, like, you know, you have to be, and I learned this with boxing, like, especially it seemed this way with boxers more because the losses really affect their records more, and, you know, really seem to matter more in boxing.
You can't lose.
But it's like you have to even be cognizant of what you say during fight week. Like, hey, Eliot, remember the time you lost to so-and-so? Like, you can't put certain things in their head. You know, you have to be mindful of what you say to them and how you are around them and like trying to build them up and this and that. So whenever I see the fighters, I mean, just in general, like that was my approach all along anyway, was always being more positive and, you know, not trying to stir up a bunch of crap. I mean, every now and then you gotta ask somebody about something or whatever, but like the whole point was never to do that. It was sort of more to like help people get to know this fighter more or whatever.
Right.
But that's a tough thing. Like sometimes on that Friday when we're doing those interviews, the pre-fight interviews, the day before, like what if I say one thing like that gets stuck in this dude's head about the time he lost a fight? Like, I don't want to do that, you know? I don't want to be responsible for your bad mindset and stuff. It can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's because it's such an intense moment. It's 15 minutes, right? It's 15 or 25 minutes. You do it 3 times a year, maybe.
Right.
And that could like fuck your whole life.
Right. Well, and it's amazing too, because I feel bad when Joe is fighting, because there was the last time he fought and, you know, Megan's like stressing out backstage, and every time we see her, we're just like, he's going to be fine. He's going to be great. Joe's amazing. Like for you, like, and that's literally how I get with like, not as, I mean, sometimes with Joe, but I mean, I don't know, because I don't work with him specifically, but like with my guys, sometimes I forget how good they are or something, right? And I would forget, and like, oh no, you know, DC's fighting or something, and I get like all stressed out. And then you go in there and you're like, oh right, yeah, he's really good. You know what I mean? Like I forget, because now I've bonded so much with them and they're my friends, and like, I don't want to see them get hurt. I don't want to whatever, but like, I forget how good they are sometimes. And then I go in there and like, I'll either overwatch the opponent because I'm so concerned about being impartial that like I won't even look at anything that my teammate is doing well. I'm like, oh my God, he's getting his ass kicked. Like, oh no. Like the Felder fight's a perfect example. Oh no. Like, and I thought in the moment, I was like, I think Edson won. Like, I don't know if Paul did it. Like, oh no. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I was probably overcompensating because I didn't want to be prejudicial to my friend. So I overcompensated and didn't even look at all the things that Paul was doing well. Do you know?
Right. How hard is that? Let's say on the other side of that though, like let's say Edson would have won that fight, and that was an amazing fight. Like it was a really great. Like
it was a great fight.
It was a great fight from a fan's point of view, especially. Yeah. And I thought that was an even fight. Like that could have easily gone either way.
Totally.
So they could have very easily raised Edson's hand.
Right.
And now maybe you have to interview him.
Right.
How hard is that? Like, no, Edson. You have to interview Edson. Right? Or like, you see what I'm saying? Like the person that you weren't rooting for, and not only were you not rooting for him, you're really good friends with Paul, or you're really good friends with DC. And now here's Stipe or Edson in these two examples. And now you have, like, you got to do your job.
Yeah, no, it's very hard. And there are times when, you know, when you put forth the appearance of objectivity, but you know, and everybody knows, like, we're rooting for our guys, right?
There's no way you didn't want DC to beat Stipe.
Right.
Come on.
It's like, and it sucks because Stipe's amazing, but I want my friend to win, right? I want my friend to win. Same thing, anything, like it always comes to be that way. But, and that totally happened. Like, and some things that would happen with John back when we were at Fox, and he would assume that we all were always rooting for DC, which in our hearts, that's our guy, but it didn't mean we can't appreciate like how amazing John is. Right. So, but there were
he's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah, he's an amazing fighter.
He's phenomenal. So there would be times when we would be talking to him after, and you could tell, or he would even say, well, I know you guys were all rooting for DC. And like, you know, you're like, well, no, but you know, but like, you can still recognize the greatness in John's performance or whatever. Like, you just have to sort of divest your emotions, you know what I mean? And just try to talk about the fight there. But Sometimes the opponents know it, and they'll even say like, I'm sorry I beat your boy. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, it sucks.
Right. How, what's it been like? I mean, so obviously you've worked with DC since he just lost.
Yeah.
God, like such an emotional thing there, right? Because he was winning the fight, like clearly winning the fight.
I know.
And it's a legacy fight. Like he doesn't have many more left.
Yeah.
Like after, like if he would have won that one, maybe he does John Jones again, right? Maybe. I don't know if he would have won. I don't know, right? If he would have won, I don't know.
Right.
So, but now like this is all now, boom, all, like, and that's the fight game. Like we were talking about, like the intensity of it. What's it been like being around him? Like, what do you say? Like now that you're back at work and it's a different work.
It's tough because I don't know if I've seen him in person since then, but I've texted him and stuff because also, you know, recently lost his father and stuff. I mean, really what I end up doing. Yeah, it sucks. And I saw Tyron the day after he lost his title to Kamaru because he had a party out here and we go. I mean, and it's hard. I'm literally like you say, like, you're always a champ in my eyes. You know what I mean? Keep your head up. You have nothing left to prove, especially in the case of DC. Nothing left to prove. And like, I know it's hard at this moment, but that man DC has been through so much. My God, like if that's, I think why it makes me crazy when people are mean to him and disrespectful to him. Like when you really appreciate everything in life that this man has been through and overcome and come past and come out on the right side of things, it's truly incredible. So that just upset me that like people can't even recognize that. Like, how you hating on that guy? Like that makes me nuts.
Hold on. But, it's Michelle Obama. People hate Michelle Obama.
Yeah, totally.
Fuck off.
Right.
Like, forget about the ladies' politics.
Right.
Forget about the ladies' politics. If you had a child, man or woman, who had the upward mobility that she had before she met Barack, right? She already graduated from Harvard Law School before she met Barack, right? And came from the south side of Chicago. So, like, get the fuck out of here. People hate, because if you can hate Michelle Obama, then Jesus Christ, you can hate anyone.
Totally.
And I don't see how you hate Michelle Obama. Look, we can disagree on abortion and we can disagree on Democrats and Republicans, but the human being that she is, fuck off. So, you know, like.
Exactly. And I got to be honest, I'm not equating myself with Michelle Obama, but there are times when like literally somebody will say something to me. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, dude, are you serious right now? Like, come on.
But that's how I do it. I just go, people hate Michelle Obama. For me, that's how I can just let it go. Because I'm not as good as she is.
Right. No, I'm not even making that equation. But you're like, dude, and the thing that would be amazing to us too is like, you know, stuff that we would do on MMA Heat or whatever. Like, we started that on our own. We spent our own money. We're doing that. And then people would write stuff. You're like, dude, this is free entertainment that we are giving you out of our own dollars, and we're doing it for the love of the game, and you're hating? Like, what, dude? What?
Yeah. Well, people hate, but like, for me, the way I've been able to let that go, the hate is, so I had like a mental breakdown / spiritual awakening, I like to call it, after my fighting career.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just like to look at it as they haven't had the opportunity in their lives to see it a different way.
Right.
And I don't fault them for the hate, because that's just where they are in their life. And if I'm going to take that negatively or let it like touch my soul, then that's on me. Like I recently saw this thing from Gary V. You like Gary V?
Gary V.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh yeah, I know who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's like, look, man, my day, every single day, it's binary. It's a 0 or an 11. And every day it's an 11. Like, it's as amazing could be, unless somebody in my inner circle dies. My wife, my mom, my best friend, something like that. Now, if somebody like that dies, it's 0. And you can't get me out of it until I'm going to get out of it. So, but I have 2 choices. I have 0 over here, and I have 11, which is amazing over here. And if I let anybody else fuck with my 11, that's my fault.
It's my fault. Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense. And I admit to allowing or letting things get to me more than they should. But a lot of that goes back to like what I was saying about that outsider thing and never fitting in. And so it's still like sensitive wound that like you can't, like it's weird because even though you're like, I'm a grown-up and I was when I was a kid, and like you can rationalize it and like you rationally understand it and you know exactly what's happening and you know exactly why it is and what triggered you and what, like you literally know. You can write the flow chart out and it'll still bother you. You're like,
oh, I'm not good at it yet. I'm working at it. But you know
the process.
I know yeah. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm looking to achieve.
Right.
Like I'm trying to achieve this, whether I reach it or not. I don't know. I don't know that I'll fucking reach it. And who knows if he reaches it.
Right.
Right. We don't know that he might just, you know, it might just be there for him too. Right. Like something to point out. I always like having a North Star.
Exactly.
To be like, okay, that's what I'm shooting at.
Right.
You know? Like I'm not a religious person, so I get, but I get why people have like the religion, like they shoot their life at God.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, I'm going to try to be like that. You
right.
know? So I get that.
I get it too. Yeah. I aspire. It's funny though, because I'm not a, you know, I don't post inspirational memes. I don't, you know, whatever. And sometimes I roll my eyes at, you know, some of the ones that people post. But if it works for them, that's great. I'm not hating on that. But every now and then, you know, people will post one. You're like, yeah, that's right. Like I think Giga Chikadze the other day posted the don't hate on nobody, don't wait on nobody. I was like, God damn it, that's perfect.
Good. I like it. Don't hate on nobody. Don't wait on
nobody. And I was like, that is like, oh, that's exactly it. Like, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And that's, and so that is one where I was like, hell yeah, that's right. But like, I'm trying, you know what I mean? And we're all like trying to be a better person and stuff like that. And you know, you do think about it and stuff, but like, you know, I gotta sometimes not let things that people say bother me because I still am sensitive to certain things. And I guess the problem on some of the things is like, it goes back to, you know, being called the N-word or whatever when you're younger. Right. And people, if they still criticize me and say that, and you're like, I can't change it. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
It goes back to, sometimes in my opinion, it goes back to like how many times you get for my dad.
Yeah.
You know, my dad's a 70-year-old black guy now.
Yeah.
You know, has been very successful in his life and drives a nice car.
Yeah.
How many fucking times is he going to get pulled over for driving a nice car?
Brutal.
You know, and have the person say, hey, I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Man, what the fuck are you checking? Do you know how hard I've worked?
Yeah.
You know, so I get it. Like there's this side of it. Like, do you know how hard I've worked? Do you know where I came from and where I am now? Like, you know, I'm not driving a Bentley. It's a fucking Mercedes. It's not even like that outrageous. You know, like, so one, get the fuck over it.
Right.
Two, God, I'm 70. You know, I can barely, I'm tired of it. I can barely, I'm not running crack. I never ran crack. Like, you know, like checking what, was I driving too slow? Was I driving too fast this time? Which one was it? And he's old and he sucks at driving. So he was driving too slow.
Yeah.
You know? But like but man, it used to be driving too fast.
Right.
You know? So I get the other side of it of like, man, does it stop? Can't I just drive down the motherfucking street?
I know. Can I just be over here? I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not doing anything, you know. Yeah, it's tough. And like I said, though, I try not to like put that first, right? Like and when people, you know, I say this a lot, but like if people said, oh, you know, like describe yourself, like the skin color part is like down the line on the list. You know what I mean? Where some people are like, I'm a black man and I'm a, you know, whatever, but like, that's not, it's more about, I mean, you know, it affects how you think, but a lot of the time it's affected you because it's other people forcing you to like have to deal with that all day.
It's always in your face.
Right.
It's always in your face.
Like, I don't think about it all day long, but you made me think about it.
You made me think about it again. Fuck off. You
totally.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying not to think about this. Stop fucking telling me.
Right.
So
please.
No, yeah. So I totally understand. And you're off to as we end up here, close up
Mexico.
Here. You're off to Mexico tomorrow, right?
Yes. Really looking forward to it. I think that Yair fight with Jeremy is going to be great.
Fireworks.
Yeah, totally.
Fireworks.
Yeah, I really, I'm looking forward to, I've never been to Mexico City. I go to Mexico. I've been like maybe 4 times or so for vacations and stuff. Right. Haven't been to Mexico City though. So definitely looking forward to it. And then next week I'm going to Copenhagen. Or is it Copenhagen? I'm so psyched for that. Like, I love when we go somewhere and it's the first time, you know what I mean? So like earlier this year, we went to St. Petersburg, Russia, which was amazing.
Right.
And yeah, the city was amazing. I had like literally like a spiritual moment at the museum there. Like it was incredible. I literally, when I came home from that I texted Dana and I was like, dude, I just saw like the most amazing, like I just had this amazing trip and it wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for you. Cause you know, he believed in me and is somebody that, you know, has really been like a champion of mine and a supporter of mine over a lot of years. And so I was like, dude, like, yeah, this wouldn't have happened without you. So thank you for this.
God, that's interesting how you see it, because I hate the travel.
Oh, I love traveling.
So I hate it as a coach. I hate it.
Yeah, it's different for you guys though.
Yeah, and plus, like, look at Austin Hubbard right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what's happening with him?
What didn't he fight in? He traveled like
he's in Vancouver,
right?
And then
he got hurt, right?
No, yeah, he got compartment syndrome in his leg, right? Which is this crazy thing,
right?
It's never happened in the UFC before, and like the healthcare in other places just isn't as good as it is in America. So
no, you're right, because I did feel bad for Mike Perry being in Uruguay.
Yeah,
and a lot of stuff happened. No disrespect to Uruguay, but like that would be very stressful to be the coach, the fighter, somewhere less developed like that. Yeah, I can understand that. But for me, I'm just saying like the other day we were in China, and which sounds so like badass to say, right? The other day I was in China. Whatever. But like to go somewhere and see, like to see it, I always say like if you can go out in the arena when they're playing Baba O'Reilly, like that's the best feeling, right? So I was there in Sweden the first time, or in, you know, St. Petersburg and China and, you know, Shenzhen, all this stuff. And when you see the crowd, like when you see them watching it and reacting, and just to get the vibe of being somewhere for the first time, like it's like the people in St. Petersburg were like, Megan and I actually came together at one point and like, they're like, can we have pictures and all this stuff, to the point where you're like, okay, just watch where you put your hands up, you know what I mean? Or whatever. But like, they just loved the whole thing and they were so excited to see us. And like, you do feel, when you're on the ground and you're in a new place like that, like, yeah, you feel that like the sport is growing. People do love this. And like the stuff that we say about, oh, it's growing around the world, like it actually is. And people are really enjoying it. And that's a cool feeling to see it firsthand. It's
amazing for everything except the fighters.
Except the fight. I agree. Dude, and cutting weight in a foreign country without the regular food or who knows what, like I totally
get water,
it.
Right? Like stressful. Even just the water, like, because like the water can make you sick, right? If you brush your teeth with shitty water, like that can just ruin the whole thing. And then other things can get ruined and yada, yada. Like, so that is what my biggest,
you're right.
You know, on the fighter. And I only advocate for the fighter. I'm never advocating for the UFC or for anybody like that. I am only advocating for the fighter. But I see the reason on the other side, you know?
Yeah.
Again, it's this dichotomy that we have in in everything, right? In everything.
Yeah.
So the last question I like to ask, I've been asking it to all the reporters and anchors and news people that I've been talking to. So I'm new to this game.
Okay.
I'm trying to be better at it.
Yeah.
What do I do well and what do I do badly?
Well, you listen, which is good. So listening is a very important thing. You know, like when people ask me, like, how do you do a good interview? I'm like, well, how about listening? Don't just have a list of questions that like, okay, when is it my turn to talk again? You know what I mean? So you actually listen. So I think that's great. And you seem to be able to take the conversation where it goes, and you're able to sort of follow up and stuff like that. So I think that's great. I don't know if there's a bad thing.
All right. Well, if you listen to it and you're like, oh, he could have done this better or that better, let me know, because it's one of those things where, like I've always been interviewed.
Yeah.
So I'm the talker.
Right.
And now I have to shut the fuck up.
Right. Well, and it's the flip side for me. Like, it's weird to get interviewed.
Right.
I'm like, well, no, like I don't. And then some of these people have asked me something. I'm like, I don't know. Right. And then I'm like, oh God, that's a weird feeling. Like or you find that you like tell the same stories, and then in your head you're like, oh, this tired story again, right? Because like I'm just not used to it.
Sure, I try not to talk too much MMA because you talk about it all the fucking time. I want to talk other things. And yes, I did not have a list of questions. I went on your Wikipedia. I saw where you were from. I saw like a little bit about your life and
Yeah.
other jobs that you had done.
Yeah.
And no, I will not. I will never have a list of questions.
Good.
Never.
I'm saying sometimes it's important because like there are times when I've gotten into a conversation with somebody and then I hang up, or, you know, you walk away and I'm like, God, I forgot to, because like you're so in the moment that you actually forgot there was that one thing you wanted to ask, right? That like, but you just lived in it for too long and you forgot. So there have been times when that has happened to me where I'm like, I can't believe I totally forgot to ask this, but you still maybe had a great conversation anyway. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate some. I'll take any feedback at any point. Like if you're like, hey, you like even, you know, whatever. So yeah, just shoot me a text. I appreciate
No, it's just, I had actually no expectations. So it worked out fine.
Great. Well, travel safely.
Thank you.
Enjoy Mexico City.
Oh, I will.
And this will come out on Monday, and I'll send you a link. If you could share it for me, that would be amazing.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great. No, I'm joking. I'm going to come back like bleeding salsa and fish tacos.
Just enjoy the food. Enjoy it, right?
Mexican
The best
food
part
is so
about the
good.
travel is the food, right? Yeah. The food when you go places is amazing.
The food can be amazing. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to get in Copenhagen. But yeah, and to have locally sourced fresh vodka in St. Petersburg was pretty dope.
It was pretty cool. All right, Karyn. Well, travel safe, and I appreciate the time. I'm always grateful to talk to people.
All right, thanks, Eliot. Have a great one.
All right, have a great one. Bye.
See ya.